Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the TRELLUS Health PLC Interim Results Investor Presentation. Throughout this presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged, can be submitted any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just click Q&A, scroll to the bottom, type your question, and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company review all questions submitted today and will publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via Investor Meet Company dashboard, and you'll be notified once they're ready for your review. I'd also like to remind that this presentation is being recorded. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Monique Fayed, CEO, Salim Hamir, CFO, and Marla Dubinsky, co-founder of TRELLUS Health PLC. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to TRELLUS Health's maiden interim results presentation as an AIM-listed company. I'm Monique Fayed. I'm the CEO of TRELLUS Health, and today I have the pleasure of presenting to you with our co-founder, TRELLUS Health co-founder, Dr. Marla Dubinsky, who's a professor of medicine and co-director at the Mount Sinai IBD Center. We also have Salim Hamir, who is our CFO. Many of you are familiar with TRELLUS Health from our AIM IPO in May, and we're delighted to share the details of the tremendous progress that we've made in just 3 short months since the listing. For those of you who are new to the TRELLUS story, thank you for joining today's call. We hope that the current and potential new investors will find the call informative regarding our mid-year performance, as well as extremely positive outlook for the next 12 to 24 months as we launch and scale our business globally. So if we'd like to now please proceed to the presentation. Great. So again, just a quick overview for those who are new to the story. TRELLUS Health is a resilience-driven connected health solution for chronic conditions that is revolutionizing the treatment and delivery of whole person care. As a quick refresher, and for those who are new, our company is developing and commercializing the provision of digital chronic condition management solutions for employers and health plans. We utilize a scientifically validated approach. It's a resilience-driven approach called the GRIT methodology, which we've licensed exclusively from Mount Sinai. Our initial focus is on inflammatory bowel diseases, and that's an umbrella term for 2 chronic incurable diseases called Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. But our license from Mount Sinai, again, it allows us to actually apply this methodology and our business to 7 broad disease categories beyond IBD. And those include things like heart disease, kidney disease, oncology, COPD, et cetera. So there are a lot of other diseases that we can utilize our approach for. Over the last year, we've developed and now launched our proprietary, highly secure technology platform, which is called TRELLUS Elevate. And that's to coordinate and deliver personalized care remotely via telehealth to our patients. So our tech-enabled care management solution is not regulated by the FDA. We expect to recognize revenue this year through a combination of B2B value-based contracts with health plans and payers, employers, as well as through direct-to-consumer through patients and in partnership with their GI providers. So one of the most important things I want to emphasize about TRELLUS Health before we dive in is that we are the first and only digital health company that's taking this resilience-driven approach to healthcare. We focus on the intersection of mental and clinical chronic disease, which represents a massive and growing market in the U.S. It's over $3.4 trillion in spend in U.S. healthcare spend. So we're really focusing on addressing that, managing that, and reducing that cost while improving the quality of care. So we can proceed to the next slide, please. If we could proceed to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we addressed TRELLUS we developed TRELLUS to address some major issues that are facing the U.S. healthcare industry, not just the incredible spend associated with these chronic diseases, but as you can see here on the right, lots of different issues that are challenging our healthcare constituents. The vision of TRELLUS Health is to provide all chronic disease patients with access to gold standard whole person care, the same type of care that's being delivered at the Mount Sinai IBD Center currently through this GRIT methodology. So everything we do is enabled by technology, but we are absolutely more than an app. We have built an extensive, secure care coordination platform, which is our TRELLUS Elevate platform, which does have an app component, but it really is the infrastructure that enables us to coordinate care between a licensed clinical care team, our patients, and their GI providers. Over the last year, we've actually digitized all of the assets that we've licensed from Mount Sinai in terms of the GRIT methodology. Actually, we could go back one slide. Sorry, I haven't finished yet. And so, as you can see here in these three colorful leaves are really the components of our business. We have a connected, integrated care team of licensed healthcare professionals who work with our patients via telehealth interactions. We have this very robust technology infrastructure that takes the GRIT resilience assessment, care coordination, remote patient monitoring, and we also have underneath it we'll be building a very robust longitudinal database of patient-reported outcomes and biomarkers for predictive analytics and also for informing real-world evidence. So again, it's a very comprehensive solution. No other digital health company integrates all three of these components while leveraging a scientifically validated approach and using connectivity to eliminate the silos and inefficiencies associated with our fragmented episodic care system. So you can move on to the next slide, please. How we do what we do, it's quite easy. It's a three-step process with our patients. And again, I'm just going to focus on IBD to start. That's where we're starting. So first we do our GRIT, our resilience assessment, where we assess our potential patients over 5 psychosocial dynamics, generating a quantitatively validated score that assesses whether or not they're resilient. And again, it's important to emphasize that that score has been proven to have an 85% predictive validity about whether or not these patients will need to utilize unplanned care over the next 12 months. So we identify those patients who are at risk, who are low resilience, and we also put together a personalized care plan for them. So this is a behavioral and clinical care plan that we work with our patients over a 6 to 8 month period. So that's where we're moving into the coordinated whole person care component of this. We manage care via convenient telehealth interactions and through utilizing our TRELLUS Elevate platform to schedule with them, to message with them, to monitor patient-reported outcomes, as well as we stay in touch with our provider to get updates every time the patient has a care event, an episode, that we understand what their care plan is and if their medications have been updated. So lastly, our TRELLUS Elevate platform constantly monitors patient biomarkers and patient-reported outcomes to alert us if they're, patients or providers, if there's any indicators of rising risk. And we assess all of our patients after 6 months. We reassess resilience to see if they've graduated, so if they've achieved resilience. And we continue to monitor our patients to achieve resilience for any indicators of inflammation or decreased resilience that could lead to unplanned care events. So really about keeping patients happy, healthy, and out of the hospital. You can move on to the next slide, please. This just gives you a quick snapshot of what the TRELLUS Elevate platform looks like and how we work with our, between our care team and the center. So our trained licensed clinical care team, which consists of a licensed clinical social worker, a registered dietitian, and a nurse practitioner, are using the TRELLUS Elevate platform constantly to manage and coordinate our patients. We communicate via the app or the web with our patients. So you can see some of the screenshots here with the care coordination touch points that we have. And then we communicate with our providers in a number of different ways, depending on their preferences in terms of communication, technology, and workflow. So we can integrate with their electronic medical record systems. We can send secure email and text. And sometimes we just use good old-fashioned phone calls. It's really up to the doctor how they want us to communicate what's happening with their patient and how to best coordinate with them. Moving on next, please. So now I'd like to shift our attention to performance highlights for the first half of 2021. And as I mentioned in our introduction, we completed our AIM IPO in May, secured approximately $40 million in capital in an oversubscribed round. So while we've invested heavily over the last 6 months in the building out of our TRELLUS Elevate platform and hiring the talent that we need to execute, as of June 30th, we still have nearly $40 million in cash on the balance sheet, which we believe will provide sufficient capital to achieve our cash flow break even in 2023. So upon completion of the financing, we did pay Mount Sinai a $500,000 license fee for the GRIT intellectual property. And at the end of the period, the company had an EBITDA loss of $1.36 million after capitalization of intangibles. And it's important to understand, though, that although we're moving out of build mode and into rapid launch mode, we are balancing ourselves to make sure that our cash will last us more than 2 years, depending on the timing and the implementation of our B2B contracts. So we can move on to the next slide, please. We've achieved significant operational progress in the first half in terms of commercialization, technology, and product development. We've hired and established our business and clinical operations, And our B2B sales pipeline really includes a robust mix of health plans, employers, and we've entered into discussions with pharma as well, and with health systems about extending our business and our GRIT methodology into other chronic diseases beyond GI and IBD. We beta launched the TRELLUS Elevate platform in June and conducted end user research to identify any immediate issues or areas of improvement. And that's really enabled us to have a very smooth launch of our actual TRELLUS Elevate platform, which happened in July. So we can move on to the next slide, please. Post-period end, we've achieved several critical milestones as outlined in our AIM admission document. Last month, we executed our first demonstration program contract with Mount Sinai Hospital with their employee health plan. And we recently announced a managed services organization agreement with Connected Health Medicine PC that will enable us to deliver our care management services using licensed healthcare professionals. We market launched TRELLUS Elevate in July. It's now available via the web and download on the App Store or via Google Play. And at the time of launch, we have already built a library of over 150 digital education modules that can be accessed by our patients 24/7 via TRELLUS Elevate to educate and reinforce them on many of the behavioral modification concepts and health education concepts that we review with them live over telehealth. So following our IPO, we announced the appointment of Alid Stevenson as our UK Managing Director. And Alid has over 19 years of experience in UK healthcare, having worked for AstraZeneca. He will lead our geographic expansion initiatives through R&D activities in the UK. So moving on, please. So this gives you a quick overview of the competitive landscape, and we really do believe that TRELLUS is superiorly positioned to deliver value to all healthcare constituents, as no competitor offers the same combination of expert-developed, scientifically validated approach, a licensed multidisciplinary care team, and a robust technology set of capabilities that we provide in terms of tracking, monitoring our patients, and predicting unplanned care events. So there have been a few recent entrants into the GI space. You can see these near the bottom. None of these players, as you can see, have a scientifically validated approach that's been utilized on patients and proven in patients. Most of them are focusing really just on the biomarker tracking and monitoring, which pretty much any digital health company could do. So if we could move on, please. So, in terms of our outlook, we're very pleased with the rate of progress we've made since IPO. We remain confident in our ability to deliver against key operational milestones according to our plans. Our B2B pipeline is robust and growing as more health plans adopt value-based population health strategies and we're expecting to announce several of these contracts in the coming months. In addition to beginning to manage the employees, the Mount Sinai employees through that demonstration program. We'll also be licensing our clinical operations in October for direct-to-consumer telehealth in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And we expect to be licensed in several more states before the end of this year. Our goal is to expand our licensed telehealth care operations to more than 20 states by the end of next year, and then to reach broadly most of the US in the following year. Our commercial pipeline is very diverse. It includes advanced discussions with several pharma companies. We expect these contracts to emerge and be solidified in the near term. And we'll also be versioning our business and platform into other chronic conditions, including those in GI, functional GI diseases, as well as non-GI diseases. And once we've collected several months of real-world evidence, we can expect to analyze and publish these results about the positive outcomes, the health outcomes, and the health economic outcomes of utilizing our resilience-driven connected care approach. So in summary, the outlook's very positive as we officially market launch our business and platform to begin to scale our technology and operations. So I would now like to turn it over to Salim Hamir, our CFO, and he will walk you through TRELLUS Health's financial performance for the first half of the year. Take it away, Salim.
Thank you, Monique. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, these financials are pretty straightforward. Again, there's nothing complex in these numbers, so hopefully we'll quickly whiz through them very quickly. So we floated in AIM and did our fundraising end of May. So only 1 month of trading has occurred in respect to these in this period. However, the reporting is for 6 months from 1st January to 30 June. As our business is mainly based in states, the reporting currency is dollars. So obviously we are a UK-based parent company, but businesses in America's functional currency is dollars. So reporting will be in dollars. We raised 28.5, which is equivalent of $40.4 million. Turning into P&L, we've incurred a loss of $1.57 million. EBITDA loss of 1.4 million. As Monique highlighted to you, that for the last 6 months it's very much build and develop. So 3 key areas of expenditure has occurred in the last 6 months. Very much building a team, personnel cost, having a software development company assisting us with the developing of the TRELLUS Elevate platform, and we've incurred costs in relation to legal and professional, in relation to legal regulatory compliance and any contractual matters, whether it's employee customer negotiation and all that. So those are the costs we've incurred the last 6 months. Obviously, I've highlighted under the EBITDA loss how the figures are made up. It comes to around 2.5 million, of which I had to capitalize, as per the accounting standards, 1.05 million as development cost. So the loss comes to 1.35, and we have a development cost of 1.05 million capitalized, and at end of June we had around $660,000. So all in all, we have spent 1.7 million in development cost. Moving on to the balance sheet, again, only 2 areas which I would like to highlight. The first one is the intangible, which is $2.214 million. Of 1.7 is development cost, and the half a million dollars is the license cost we paid to Mount Sinai, 0.5 million. This is again highlighted in the admission document as well. The license fee to Mount Sinai was based on successful AIM fundraise, and that's what we have done. Obviously, the company has no revenue, so we haven't provided any amortization. But I believe once the revenue starts in 2021, at the year end, we'll have amortization on these intangibles going forward. And the next item is at the end of 30 June, we have 39.7 million sitting in our bank account still. So that's the financials, pretty straightforward, nothing complex, straight, and that's what it is. Anyway, I leave it at that, and I give it back to you, Monique. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much, Salim. Wonderful. Great, so I guess this that concludes the formal portion of our presentation. So now we'd like to move into a Q&A with our investors who are on the call, or investors or interested investors. What's interesting, I just took a look at the poll and saw that about 20% of the folks on the call are not currently investors, but we do have 80% are investors. So it's great that we have a mix of those who are currently invested and those who are potentially interested in becoming shareholders of TRELLUS. Looking at the first question here from Andy, he had a question of, do you own all the data, and how does that work commercially? And what should we be looking for milestone-wise to demonstrate your progress? So that's a couple questions in one. So let me walk through it very quickly. We do own all of the data that we collect and managing our patients. So when we're collecting, whether that's biomarker data, patient-reported outcome data, any data that we have on our patients, when they register with our program, they consent to allow us to have access to their data, to utilize it in a de-identified way for research purposes. If they don't want to do that, they can opt out of the utilization for research purposes. So that's all part of the initial consent process. We do own the data, so we can utilize it for our own predictive analytics purposes, and then also for publications, publishing our outcomes. In terms of how it works commercially, again, it helps us, the data we own. So we don't need to license patient data from anyone. The only thing that we've licensed from Mount Sinai is the GRIT methodology, which we can utilize for IBD and 7 other broad disease categories. But we can utilize the data and the predictive analytics and publications of that data and the outcomes of that data any way we like, in accordance with privacy standards, of course. And what should we be looking for milestone-wise to demonstrate progress? Well, clearly it's going to be signing of additional B2B contracts. We expect one contract with a New York State health plan to be signed very soon, as well as some additional health plan contracts within the next 3 to 6 months. We also expect that we'll see some contracting with pharma within the next 3 to 6 months based on our advanced discussions and pipeline with pharma. So that would demonstrate progress. Getting patients engaged, enrolled is important, of course, so that we can demonstrate that real world evidence and gain those testimonials that'll enable us to grow and convince both our payers, our B2B payers, and our patients of the great care that we're providing. I believe that's the answer to Andy's questions. Let me look here. Nick, are all costs to launch sunk, and what is left to do? Salim, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, again, it's a very broad question. Are all costs to launch sunk? What's left to do? I think currently we're still developing, and the areas we're developing, it's not just one chronic disease. We'll be developing to other chronic diseases. So there's a lot of development work required still. And as Monique highlighted, we're talking to pharma. So there's a lot of development cost around, developing the great methodology and technology to other areas as well. So you have those two side of it. At the same time, as you progress with IBD, you need to update, you need to change the methodology, you need to expand the services to patients. So there will be a lot to do. It's not just we have done once and that's it. It's not like that.
Yeah, so just to expand on that, with the proceeds of the AIM raise, we actually are investing in a very robust interoperability platform that will enable us to directly speak and exchange data with electronic health record systems, with lab systems. So that's all being built out currently. As Salim said, we're building out and versioning the platform for other chronic conditions. We're starting out with functional GI, and then we're also expanding into non-GI. And we'll continue to evolve our capabilities for tracking and monitoring. So we are looking closely at integrating wearables for passive data monitoring. That's clearly something that we could add in, and are looking to add in over the next year. So there are a lot of tech enhancements. And of course, we'll hear feedback both from our patients and from our payers and from pharma about enhancements that they would like to see to make the experience better for the patients and for those paying for the access to the service. There is a question in here about what currency the cash is held. All of our figures are reported in dollars and US dollars. I don't know, Salim, if you want to expand on that.
It's a mixture of dollars and pounds. We had the fundraise was a mixture of dollars and pounds, so that's what we have. However, a majority of it is in pounds, but we are converting as we go along into dollars.
Okay, and next question, how long will your initial contracts be? So what we're seeing with our initial contracts, if you look at the details of, say, the Mount Sinai demonstration agreement and also the terms of the agreement that we're currently negotiating with the New York State payer, health plan, should I say, these are contracts for around 6 to 9 months, and they're really primarily around assessing feasibility. Does the platform work? Does the technology work? Are the patients engaging? Are they satisfied? Are their resilience scores increasing over a 3-month period? So they're looking at these as more short-term feasibility assessments to determine whether or not things are working. This is positive. We demonstrate progress. We'll move into longer-term negotiations about multi-year contracts with these payers. So that's how we're structuring our initial demonstration programs. But as we enter into longer term, our goal is to enter long-term, multi-year recurring contracts with health plans and employers. The contracts with pharma will be structured differently because they're based on projects. Some of them do address providing access to coordinated care, but some of them also address using applying the resilience metrics to, clinical trial effectiveness assessments and things like that. So those are more analytical. Those would be structured and priced differently.
Fantastic.
Any other questions?
I think you've covered off all those questions we've had come through. Perhaps we'll give it a couple of moments to see if any further questions do come through. Of course, if further questions do come through, you will have the ability to review those. But just perhaps while we wait a moment for that, if I may, Monique, just a few final words just to conclude. And if we have any further questions through, you can pick those up on the way through.
Sure. So, in closing, thank you again for taking the time to come and visit our interim results. We're very positive on the outlook for continuing to achieve all of the milestones that we'd addressed in our IPO admission document. We have a lot of great news flow that's going to be coming up in the next 3 to 6 months. So we hope that you'll continue to follow us and ideally invest and help us join us on this journey as we transform healthcare through resilience-driven connected health. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's absolutely fantastic. Monique, Celia, Marla, thank you indeed for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close the session, as you'll be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete and be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of TRELLUS Health PLC, we'd like to thank you very much for attending today's presentation. That concludes today's session. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.